Welcome to Mindgrub TV. I'm Kim Paradise, Chief of Staff at Mindgrub. Sandra Karante, Quality Assurance Specialist, is here to share why accessibility is essential for your brand and 3 tips to ensure your website is compliant.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sandra Karante, and I'm an accessibility specialist here at Mindgrub. And today I am going to speak to you about 3 ways to make your site accessible. They're simple things, but they will make the difference in your website. Accessibility is actually quite easy to achieve if you do it from the beginning and you think about it from the beginning. That includes designs, wireframes, and engineering. But we're going to focus on web today. So the first thing that you can do is use native HTML. So native HTML is accessible by default. It's when you start to get fancy that things get tricky. So for instance, if something is a link and it is rendered with the A tag, then the keyboard will pick this up as an interactive element and it will be accessed in the tab index. And the screen reader will also pick this up as well and it'll announce as a link. However, sometimes we use custom elements and they're interactive with the mouse, but they're not picked up by the keyboard. And this could be challenging for someone who has a motor impairment and uses the keyboard to navigate. So what do you do then? Well, that doesn't mean that you can't use the custom element, but you will make sure to add it to the tab index by using tab index 0. You will also add your ARIA attributes, which we'll talk about ARIA another day, but that will make sure that it is accessed in the keyboard navigation and you hear it the way that you're supposed to with the screen reader. The second thing you can do is force alt text. Now force, that sounds, well, actually very forceful. But what I mean by that is in the content management system, you can make sure that a media upload is not complete until it has alt text on it. So alt text looks something like this. You have your image tag, the source, and then you'll have your alt attribute, and this is what is announced by the screen reader. However, sometimes this is omitted and it's missing in the CMS. And so that's why it's a good idea to force it, because then it'll be a foolproof way to make sure that you alt text on your media. Sometimes you don't want to add alt text though, especially if the image is decorative. This could just be like a banner image that is a mural. And in that instance, your alt text would be blank. So instead of this description, it'll look like this. And we want that because then it won't be picked up by the screen reader. The last thing you can do is use semantic headings. I don't know if you can tell, but these are going down in size. And then when you get to the H6, it's super small. So this is H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. You can only have one H1 on a page. And this is what is available in the SEO, and it usually matches the page title. You can only have one because if you have multiple, then it could confuse the screen reader user. You can have multiple of any of these elements, however. But why use headings? Headings is how you break down content, right? When we see things sectioned with like a large text and the corresponding text, that's how we can break it down. However, the screen reader user can use their virtual cursor and use the H key to access the headings. That means that these have to be structured correctly though. If you skip from an H1 to an H3, they may think that a section is missing. But why would that happen? Well, sometimes that's actually what happens. You'll skip because you like the way the H3 looks, but then it could confuse the screen reader user. So how do we go about that? How do we make sure that we can still maintain things visually, but make sure that the site is still accessible? Well, you can actually code it as an H2, but style it as an H3. That way, it maintains its visual aesthetic, but it is actually accessible and goes in semantic order. And so those are 3 things that you can do to make sure that your website is accessible. There's 3 small things, but they are quite mighty. 1, use native HTML. 2, force alt text on the CMS. And then 3, use semantic headings. We'll talk about ARIA at a later date and some other things that you can do to make sure that your website is accessible.
Thank you for tuning in to Mindgrub TV. If you're interested in learning more about the awesome work we create, be sure to visit mindgrub.com and follow us on all social media at Mindgrub on all channels.